I made $850,000 selling supplements on Amazon by age 27, and then I sold the business in 2021 for six figures. In this video, I want to break down the three brands that I launched, how many products I launched for each brand, how much sales and profit I got from each brand, and the top five lessons I learned from selling in one of the most competitive niches on Amazon. Let's get right into it. All right, so first, before we start, just a little bit about me. So I'm from Canada. I live in Thailand since 2015. I sold over $1 million of products on Amazon. I exited my supplement brands after 3 years, so that was in 2021. And now I'm building brands and developing products for an eight-figure aggregator based in Singapore. So just before we continue, I want to share with you some screenshots. So here we have some screenshots that I took just before I sold my business, when I still had access to the account. So I took a video of a couple different dashboards, and so now I'm showing you a screenshot of that video. And so here we see $857,000 from July 2018 to July 2021. So that's 3 years with net profit of $210,000. And then here we have the Seller Central screenshot, which is only for the last 2 years, not the last 3 years before I sold the business. So that's why it's $740,000. So the difference is for that first year. So there we go. So let's dive into the first brand now. And obviously I'm blurring the screenshot because I'm under contract not to share what the brand is. So I gotta blur this for you guys. But yeah, so this brand I launched 5 products. So it started with one product in 2018. That was my first product that I launched on Amazon. And my first purchase order cost was $1,814. So I sold over 6,000 units. I made over $233,000 in sales, and I made over $63,000 in profit at a 27% margin, which is pretty good for Amazon. And so that was for the whole period of the 3 years. My second brand, which was my best and most profitable brand, I launched 2 products. My first purchase order was $979, and I sold over 8,000 units, sales of over $371,000, profit of over $180,000, and that was an Excel margin of 48%. Very, very high margin because this was a product that was in a low competition niche with just great branding. And yeah, I just had a combination of really good factors going for that product. So that was my third brand. That's where I kind of failed a little bit. So third brand, that's when I got a little bit lazy, I think, because I was doing well with the niche supplements. So the first 2 brands were both for a specific niche, but this brand I wanted to have a little bit of an easier time scaling. So I decided I would just use those same skills that I have to create a more premium branding, but instead I would be selling generic supplements, so the generic ingredients like vitamins, probiotics, not like a formula that's specific for a health problem. So that's how I launched this one. So this one I launched over 80 products, I think in that first year. My first purchase order was over $3,000, sold over almost 8,000 units, sold over $250,000, but ended up losing money on this brand. So I ended up losing over $30,000 over time. Yeah, that's a complicated explanation. Why that happened and why did I keep losing money for so long for this brand. But yeah, this is a brand where I learned a lot. And I think it could still work, just required more capital and a bit of a different execution strategy than what I was doing. So a couple lessons that I've learned doing all of this, selling all of these supplements over the 3 years. First is that supplements are indeed competitive. You hear this a lot if you listen to YouTube channels about Amazon. Yes, supplements are competitive, but it's also because there's a lot of opportunity in supplements. And of course, if you go into niches, like the big niches like fat burners and testosterone boosters, like the big infamous supplement niches, it's very competitive, it's very cutthroat, there's a lot of knife fights, your listing gets attacked and stuff. So you don't want to be dealing in those niches, obviously, and you also don't want to be dealing in some of the huge niches because those are just going to be outside your budget. But the cool thing about supplements is that there's thousands of small niches where you can make $10, $20, $30,000 a month per product, or even less than that, and your competition is a lot less because they're smaller niches, and then you have an opportunity to brand specifically for a health problem and charge high prices and make high margins. So supplements is so big that we can't just put it into one bucket and just say that bucket is like really competitive. It's just so big and it breaks down in so many little categories that it is indeed competitive, but you have a lot of opportunity in supplements. Lesson number 2 is that you usually gonna have an easier time selling a niche supplement than a generic supplement. That's something I've learned. All those generic brands can be huge. Niche supplements, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a small budget, not in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, you're usually gonna have an easier time doing a niche supplement. What I mean by a niche supplement is a supplement that's targeted at one specific health problem. So if someone, for example, has like a migraine problem, right, and you're gonna go in and try to figure out a way to make a supplement that helps with migraine in some way, and then you're able to brand that specifically for that problem. And let's say the niche is not that big. Migraine is probably quite a big niche. I don't know much about it, but you're going to have an easier time because people are going to be willing to pay more to fix that migraine than to purchase vitamin D3, for example. Because vitamin D3 is very commoditized, but a migraine solution is very valuable if it works, right? Because it gets that pain, it basically solves a huge problem for them. So that's why supplements, niche supplements, you're gonna have a much higher margin, you're gonna have an easier time differentiating, things are just gonna be easier, and it might be a little harder to scale to 300 products, but in order to build a good profitable Amazon business is gonna be a good strategy. So lesson number 3 is you want to brand for high prices, and I do want to give you a little bit of an example here. So there's a way to brand supplements for higher prices. So let me show you an example here. So here we have Amazon, and I typed in vitamin D3 just randomly, and I was just scrolling down, and there's a couple different brands here, but I picked up those 2 brands. So first we have the Nature Bounty here, which is to me a very cheap, value-oriented brand, and so we have 5,000 IU, and we have 240 capsules here, soft gels, and then we go to here, which is Pure Encapsulations, which is to me is a very good example of a brand that is a lot more medical, a lot more clinical, right? And here we have also 5,000 IU, and then we have 250 counts here versus 240, so it's about the same. So here they're charging $50, right, for the same amount that these guys are charging $15 for. And I'm not going to open up the sales now just because I want to keep the video short, but I can bet you that these guys are probably making maybe not as much as Nature Bounty, but on a profit level, these guys are probably doing much better and have definitely much higher margins. So this is what I mean. You want to brand more clinical, you want to brand more medical, because you're leveraging existing associations that we have in the mind that doctors are trustworthy, medical drugs are more effective, and you're leveraging those associations, and so you're making your product have a higher perceived value in that way. So lesson number 4 that I learned is you can always test small with supplements, and that's the thing that I like most about it. You can go online and find a private label supplier, and they're going to have a catalog of different products, and sometimes you can order as low as 50 units per product. So you can decide, okay, I'm going to test out this idea, and maybe you find a formula that's close enough to what you want, and then you put your label on it, and then you're able to give it a run for like 50 or 100 bottles, and then you just see if you can sell 50 to 100 bottles on Amazon. And you make a listing, you do everything that you do your best, and then you turn on the PPC, and you just see if you're able to sell 50 to 100 bottles, because sometimes maybe you'll run into issues, right? Maybe you get your listing suspended because you used a wrong word, or maybe the PPC is super expensive, or you have some issues with the PPC. There's a lot of things that can happen, or maybe just you got the concept wrong, or you got the branding wrong, and you just have a terrible conversion rate. Customers don't want to buy it, right? So in that sense, you're gonna save a lot of money if you make a mistake there. So that's why I always recommend test small, and then once it works, then it goes to lesson number 5, which is launch execution matters. So if you want to launch in a more competitive niche, it does matter how you launch those first 60 days. You do want to make sure that you do a proper launch execution. So in that case, you probably want to order at least a couple hundred bottles, or however much you need to not run out of stock and execute that proper launch. This video is not going to be about how to execute a launch on Amazon, but we're talking about PPC, possibly search, find, buy, and maybe some external traffic. And you want to make sure that you get those reviews initially quickly, and that you get up to over 10 reviews as soon as possible. So again, we're not going to go into exactly, but I did learn that sometimes I would launch products well, and it would make a big difference versus just listing them up on Amazon and just turning out some PPC and just hoping that they kind of get a momentum by themselves. All right, so guys, thanks for watching. I want to keep this short. But if you have any questions or if there's any topics that you'd like me to cover in the future, please comment below. I'd really appreciate that as I'm trying to figure out my best direction to go with this channel. So also, if you like the video, please click like, and if you want to see more of these, definitely subscribe. That would be great. All right, guys, thank you.